Hey, what is up YouTube? Welcome to another League of Legends guide. Today we are covering Jungle Shaco, the Demon Jester.
How about a magic trick?
Shaco is very easily one of the best gankers and one of the best counter junglers in the entire game. He's got great split push and flexible builds so he can fill multiple roles. With his devastating ganks and counter jungling, he has very fast snowball and can win games very early on. He's extremely fun to play, and I would pretty much say he's the funnest to play jungler in the game. He fits pretty well into the meta, and he's also a great split pusher, so this gives you another win condition. If you do happen to be losing the game, he can also split push all game long to put a lot of pressure so you guys can catch up. Now, although he's a great champion, he still has cons, one being he's hard to play and master. You really have to get used to the fact that you have absolutely no tankiness on Shaco generally, and you can't really get caught. Thornmail is then great against you as well unless you go for an AP build, but in this guide we're going to go for an AD. Since you heavily rely on your stealth for positioning, reveals are pretty strong against you. Of course this includes pink wards. Then of course if you do get caught in a CC, if the enemy team is decent at all, you're pretty much dead. For our mastery page we go 18 Cunning and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Thunderlord's Decree as our keystone mastery. Shaco is a champion who relies on his quick burst to delete a single target, so of course Thunderlord's Decree helps you complete this goal. As for a viable option, I suppose Fervor of Battle would be decent. We do get some decent attack speed early on with the Shiv and whatnot, so that is a pretty good option as well. I would however say, stick with the Thunderlord's Decree. For our runes, we go attack damage reds, armor yellows, scaling magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. This gives you some nice early tankiness from the armor and later magic resist with some nice clearing ability from the attack damage and attack speed. This is a very generic rune page I'm sure you've all seen many times on many different AD junglers, and it works on Shaco really well, so we end up taking that page on him as well. For our summoner spells, Shaco is one of the very few junglers where we don't really take flash. But of course Smite is our first required summoner spell, being we are a jungler. This of course is required to get your jungler item, and it's great for clearing through the jungle, applying a slow from a distance once you obtain your Stalker's Blade, and securing Dragon and Baron. Now for the second summoner spell, we'll want either Ignite or Exhaust. Flash isn't required on Shaco since he has a very short cooldown stealth and flash. Ignite instead is great for adding some early damage pressure and to start snowballing. Your ganks become much more effective. Exhaust is then also great for ganking lanes that have no CC. It will provide a strong slow and remove some armor and magic resist, and it's even great for 1v1ing people in the late game. Generally I always take Ignite, but Exhaust is great against some assassin champions, so it's definitely worth mentioning. As for Flash, well of course it's a great alternative, but it's not going to really help you snowball early on as Shaco, so in my opinion, Ignite and Exhaust are much better options. So now for Shaco's abilities, starting with his passive, Backstab. So the name here kind of gives this ability away. Shaco deals 20% bonus damage when striking an enemy from behind with its basic attacks, or 2 Shiv Poison. So there's not too much to say about this ability. Obviously you want to try to hit people from the back for that extra damage. Most of the time when people see a Shaco pop out, they start running away anyways and expose their back. Then, of course, keep hitting their back for that bonus damage. Now your Q, Deceive. This instantly blinks to the target location and stealths you for up to 3.5 seconds. It then causes your basic attack within 6 seconds to critically strike for bonus critical damage. So the blink and stealth here are what give you your very strong ganks and high mobility. Since it does have a range of 400, you can jump over many of the walls in League of Legends, so you can take all sorts of crazy gank paths. These here are all viable options to use Deceive from. As you can see, there's circles on every single lane by the tower. You can deceive from there, run into the lane stealthed, and get a gank off. You can then also jump over the walls pretty much all over the map to gank from there as well. This makes warding against Shaco really hard because you never know where he's going to jump over, and he may be stealthed where that ward is anyways. A very strong ability which makes Shaco the pain in the ass he is. Next is your W ability, Jack in the Box. Shaco summons a box at the target location that stealths after a 2-second delay and lasts up to 60 seconds. If an enemy springs this trap, it opens and causes surrounding enemies to turn and flee while it attacks nearby enemies for up to 5 seconds. This ability then, unfortunately for us, deals AP damage. So we take this ability at level 1, so we can stack those boxes and easily clear the jungle. Other than that, when we are ganking, we try to drop this in a position where the enemy champion has to run through, so we can hopefully get that flee off. When counter jungling, we can also drop these in bushes all over the place, so if the enemy jungler runs through, we can easily kill them. This is a great ability, but it is based off of AP, so we still have to max this one last. Now for our last basic ability, our E, 2 Shiv Poison. This ability has a passive as long as this ability is not on cooldown. Your basic attacks will poison your targets and slow them for up to 2 seconds and reduce their attack speed by up to 30%. For the active, you throw a dagger at the target enemy, dealing magic damage and slowing them for 3 seconds. So this is definitely your best basic ability, and we max it first. The passive slow makes your ganks a lot more effective, and when you activate it, it does a nice chunk of damage. As for using this ability, you don't want to use it too early on. Some people use their E as soon as they see the enemy, and that's definitely not how you want to use it. If you activate it and it goes on cooldown, you're no longer perma-slowing the enemy champion. When you are ganking, make sure you don't use this ability until you know you can get the kill for sure, and you want to do a nice chunk. Last but not least is your ultimate, Hallucinate. This makes a clone of you and can add some nice damage in team fights, but there's even better ways to use the ability. If you time it right, you can dodge a lot of spells like Karthus Ultimate, Caitlyn Ultimate, Twisted Fate's Gold card, and Tarek's Stun. Use it just before the abilities go off, and they will completely miss you. He then also applies on-hit effects, which makes the Static Shiv a great item on him. Also, if you are trying to push a tower or do Dragon or Baron, don't hesitate to use your Hallucinate, as you can take them down much quicker. Your clone can then also even tank the Dragon, which means you can solo it pretty early on. Overall, I think this is definitely an underestimated ability. It is fantastic if used properly. Do not hesitate to use it defensively, it can save you in many different situations. For our skill order, we max our R first, followed by our E, then Q, and finally W. Make sure you take your W at level 1 so you can start stacking those boxes at 40 seconds into the game so you can easily clear the first jungle camp. Then max your E for its slow and Q for its really solid ganking ability. For our jungle route, you can pretty much go wherever you want since you can use boxes on the first camp and save smite for the second. You can take a more traditional route by taking either your red or blue first, then smiting a second camp, and then taking the second buff. In this game, however, I knew I was against a weak early game jungler, so I took my red first, invaded, and took the enemy's blue. By doing this kind of route, you are ensuring that you're going to have a stronger early game than the enemy champion, since they won't get blue or that experience it provides. The choice is up to you. You have the power to go wherever the hell you want in the jungle. Shaco has extremely strong ganks in the early game, and you need to take full advantage of it. You are a champion who falls off later on in the game, so take advantage of your full early game power. Make sure you don't completely neglect your jungle when you are ganking. It is important that you keep up your farm, so you are on at least the same pace as the enemy jungler. After you get your lane some kills, try to follow up with towers, dragon, or Rift Herald. Get yourself and your teammates snowballing so you can end the game early, before you fall off. In the mid game, you're still a powerhouse and you can easily still influence the game drastically. At this point, you're also generally going to have enough items and power to get through their carry's health insanely quick. Keep the snowball going by taking their towers and other objectives after you land kills. Don't just settle for a few kills if you can get more, take advantage. Roam around the map and look for those squishy targets to delete. If you don't see any, you can also farm your jungle, counter jungle, or split push. You can still be somewhat effective in the late game, but you're sure as hell not the powerhouse you were before. The majority of champions are going to be pretty tanky at this point, and you're no longer going to be able to burst them down. Your job will always be to kill their carries and make sure you're durable enough to survive any damage they may put out. Make sure you're being very careful of pink wards and sweepers. If you're in the lower elo, you're not going to see these used too much against Shacos because they don't really know how to deal with him too effectively, but later on, you're going to see them all the time. Also, please make sure you are not initiating the fights. You are way too squishy. Wait for everybody to be fully engaged, deceive to the backline, and hopefully you can kill their AD carry or AP carry. For our item build, we start with a machete, refillable potion, and a warding totem. For our core build, we get Stalkers enchanted with Warrior, we choose our boots, get a static Shiv, and then either a Titanic Hydra or a Ravenous Hydra. All of the boots work pretty well on Shaco, but my favorite are definitely the Swiftness and Mobility. Great for taking full advantage of your strong early game ganks to get it snowballing. Then of course, if you were wanting to add just a little bit more damage, we could always take the Berserker Greaves. For our defensive options, of course Guardian Angel is an excellent pickup since we are very squishy. If we came back to life, we could then deceive away and hopefully escape or re-engage. Since we are very weak against CC, Mercurial Scimitar is a very excellent option. Then we've got the Maw and Sterax, both are fantastic ways of adding just a little bit of tankiness and yet some more damage. Deadman's Plate is then great for adding some armor and health pool with some ability, and Banshee's Veil for blocking spells and getting some nice magic resist. Then for the offensive items, of course we've got a Yumu's. It's always a great item on an assassin, and Shaco of course is no exception. We do have some great mobility on him, so I don't take it too often, but it's still a great option. If we are looking for just crazy ridiculous damage, of course there's Infinity Edge. We've already got some nice crit from the static Shiv, so we make some pretty good use of this item. Then there is Trinity Force, a really nice way to add some CDR, yet increase your damage at the same time. If we then felt like we didn't have enough attack speed from the Shiv, we could always go for a Phantom Dancer, an excellent item as well. To increase our assassination potential and add just a little bit of armor penetration, Duskblade is a great item on him as well. Then against very tanky teams, we could get the LDR to get through Mass Armor, or Blade of the Ruin King to do some extra portions of damage. So one example full build where we are going for very high damage would be taking our core, but choosing the Berserker Greaves and still the Titanic Hydra. I like this item a lot more than the Ravenous, so I usually choose it over that. We then finish that off with a Duskblade and a Phantom Dancer. We will do absolutely insane damage, yet have a relatively decent health pool from the Titanic Hydra. We won't be insanely squishy. We will still, however, be a very squishy jungler, so positioning is key. But hey, at least we have a stealth. For our second build, we get a lot tankier by instead getting a Sterax Gauge and Guardian Angel. We will still do an absolute ton of damage on Shaco with this build, but will be just a little bit more durable. Now this is just skimming the surface of some good Shaco builds. These are two I use pretty often depending on what we need, but there are so many different viable options. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our completed Shaco Jungle Guide. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. We have lots and lots of League of Legends content to come out in the near future. Also, if you guys do have Twitter and you like to enter free skin giveaways, make sure you go to our Twitter at egaming_TV and follow so you can enter those giveaways. Other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace!
I don't know what you